You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Sure glad to see you today. We've collected 4 more ice tools, and we have not done any restorations in quite a while on that collection. So today we're going to go down to the shop and get them cleaned up and add them to our collection.
Well, I was looking around for a restoration for this week and actually realized that I had accumulated quite a few of my ice tools, which I haven't done in a while. I know when George with you on the watch finds one, he sends it on to me, and I pick them up at flea markets and around and about, but I've lost track of what came from where. Anyway, thanks to George if what you sent me is in this batch. First one is this called a Dandy Ice Cube Breaker, and it's a wicked looking little thing. Looks like one of my instruments of torture. You could get a finger and really put the pressure on them, but it seems to be made of aluminum or a pot metal of some type. I'm not sure what the but I think it's aluminum, and it definitely needs a cleaning. It's crooked. So we need to straighten it out, be sure everything's tight, and see what those teeth, nasty teeth, look like once I get it all done. So that's one. This one I found, and I believe this tip is made of stainless steel because it hasn't rusted. And every other tool I got is rusted beyond belief because they're around a lot of moisture. And in fact, I'll get a magnet and check it. Hold on a second. Okay, of course we know this one's not metallic. This one, it is. I guess it is made of steel after all. Well, it was awful shiny and bright for being an old tool. So that, I guess that is a steel piece. The prongs, the whole thing. Yep. And it needs cleaning, and the handle definitely needs a refinishing. That's in the... We'll make that wood look nice. Here's another one that somebody has added a little eye hook to in the back. I don't know what you could hang that on. It's so tiny. But we're going to get rid of that and refinish the wood and the metal on here to see if we can get either a nice grain for finishing or painting if we can't get a good grain. And then we've got this little no name. A lot of these came with advertising on them, and it's probably worn off over the years. All the finish looks like it's worn off of here. So we'll need to refinish that, refinish the tip. So that'll give us a variety of 4 different items to work on for this week. So let me get them cleaned up, and then we'll decide what kind of finish to put on them. So here we are after wire brushing. We'll give them a little looking over. Yeah, we determined this was steel and not stainless, and we're going to have to polish it up and shine it up. But it's in good shape. Just needs polishing, and of course we got to redo the handle. It's a little what I finally determined was all aluminum, and this is I wire brushed this. But this is a difficult metal to work with because I tried polishing on the end of it, and it's really soft. I may have to use a very, very light abrasive, or maybe, I don't know, sandpaper and then a Scotch-Brite on this to try to get this metal finished up. We got the teeth polished up here best we could, and it's going to be a nice looking little piece when it's finished. Of course, this one's just, we cleaned the metal and it needs to be polished. It's dark, and we got the corrosion off of it. And we'll get the handle sanded. Same thing with this one. Got to polish this and get this sanded, so that's our next step. I've done a lot of cleaning of the metal here, using the Dremel to get down in all the tight spots and polishing and working on them. But I haven't done anything to the handles, and I don't know what kind of finish I'm going to put on them. It depends on what the wood looks like underneath whatever old finish is still on here. And I use, there's a couple of ways to do it: scraping them, then sanding them. But I had a lot of success my last video in using some paint stripper. And I decided I'm going to try putting some paint stripper in a bag and let them soak in here. The reason I use the bag is the paint stripper stinks. Even though it's water-based, it's kind of a really foul odor. And so I'll put them in the bag and let them sit in here for about 30 minutes and scrub them off and kind of see what I've got there. Sort of a lazy strip rather than all the scraping and sanding, to see what I can come up with. So that's my next move. Well, let's see where we are after paint stripping and sanding. The paint stripping worked just great. It was a lot easier than scraping, but I still, after stripping, I did have to sand it. And this one, I mean, this is just plain Jane wood. This is going to have to be a solid color stain or a paint, because there's just no grain or anything to be found. Not going to look good with a, translucent stain on it. This one, it's got some possibilities. We might, what I do in a case like this is I go ahead and stain it. If it doesn't work, I can always sand it down and paint it. So let's give it a try and see. This one, I think we're going to have some grain on here. This looks like this is going to be a nice candidate for a stain. And before, I think these were all just shellac, but there wasn't any stain put on them that I could tell. So let's try a stain on here and see what it looks like. Again, you can always change your mind and go to a color. This piece is still a work in progress. I'm working on it. This aluminum's kind of strange, the way it's finishing out and everything, so gonna have to work on that some more. But in the meantime, I'll do a little staining and see what this looks like. Well, things didn't go as I wanted, but it kind of went as I predicted. This one, with the plain wood on it, I decided it needed to be painted, so I've now put a prime coating on it, primer filler, to get any little rough spots filled in. This one, it just did not take a stain. I didn't think it would. I hoped it would, but that didn't come out very well, so I've got to figure out what to do with this one. This one is really interesting. I put a red mahogany stain on it, and the whole thing just looked, it was so dark. And two levels of the wood. Some the areas that were recessed in here were almost black. So it was all motley looking, so I've sanded it down and smoothed it, and if I put a finish on here, wax it real good or something, it might look kind of nice. It's got an interesting look to it with the way it took the stain. So I might try polishing it, and if it doesn't look good, I'll have to sand it down and paint it. So let me try doing that first. And the little, I just continue to work. I don't know what much to do with this, except I've sanded the handles down where they were really rough and kind of cleaned it up all over. So I've got to continue on. Okay, if you'll remember the condition these tools were in when we got them. All the wood definitely need refinishing, and of course the metal also. except for this one seemed to be a bright, shiny finish. Anyway, first was this ice pick. It had a little screw hook in the handle. Tiny, I don't know what you would hang it on. You could get a string through it, I guess. But the wood was rough. And I didn't know how the wood was going to turn out. I felt like I couldn't get anything out of it. But after I cleaned it and sanded it, I decided to give it a shot anyway. So I put some stain on it to see how it would come out. And here's what happened. It it didn't have a heavy grain of any type, but the wood came out nice looking. I could have painted it, but I decided, not to give up on staining. So I put a stain on it, and I finished it out by polishing it or waxing it with Johnson's wax. And then I went over to my buffing wheel and used the buffing wheel to buff out, to give it a light glow finish, which I like, not the real super shiny finish. And it turned out to be a nice little tool. Not bad. Next was this little, just plain Jane, no nothing, and the wood on it was just there was no hope for it as far as the stain was concerned. So I sanded it all down, stripped it, sanded it, and got it all ready. And here's what I did to it. I decided to go with a nice bright orange, something a little different than my other ice tools I've got in my collection, and I think it gave a nice look to this old, tired looking ice pick, and really just a plain Jane nothing. It looks like one of those that were giveaways by the ice companies, and it probably had their name on it at one time, but there was nothing there to be found. It was just old and weathered and used. Next was this tool I've never had before, and it was an ice breaker. And you put the cube in there, and you get these evil teeth on there to squeeze down and to crush it. And on this tool, I mainly just cleaned it. Everything was real rough. It was an aluminum. It was really weird to work with, different than steel. And but I went ahead and sanded down and polished out the handles on it and cleaned it all over, and I got down in every which area here with the Dremel. And so cleaning and shining and polishing made it turned out very nice compared to the condition it came in. So that was a success. And this last one was really unusual. The handle design was unusual. It definitely needed finishing, and I used a paint stripper on it, then sanded it down, and it was just completely cleaned and sanded down, an even color. And then I put a red mahogany stain on it, which I had in my archives over there. I hadn't used in years, and I didn't realize how dark it was. But when it finished out, all of these recessed areas came out almost black. And it was just dark all over. It looked terrible. I didn't think there was any hope for it. So I didn't give up. I kept on going, and this is what I did with it. And the handle came out just absolutely beautiful. Nice little handle. What I did was, after I put the stain on, and it was just almost, most of it was just a dark, almost black color. I sanded it and buffed it with Scotch-Brite, and scrubbed it with a coarse steel wool, sanded back over it again where I got a lot of that finish off of there, the top level, and got down into the wood where some grain would be exposed. And of course these areas are still dark in here because you remember they were almost black. But it gave it a kind of a two-tone look, and frankly, I like it. I think the handle turned out just super for, sometimes you just work and work and work with something and see what you can come up with. I wanted the natural wood. I didn't want to paint it. I could have, but I felt like it had potential. Seems like a good solid wood. I don't know what it was, but by sanding it after staining, I got it down to a reasonable color, a lighter color, and it's kind of a two-tone, but again, I like it. And I finished this out, again, the same way with the Johnson's wax, and I went over to my buffer and went over it quite a few times with the buffing wheel, and I think that just brought out the beauty of the wood. As far as the metal, I just cleaned all down in the areas here with my Dremel with a little fine wire brush and cleaned it up. It was fairly good shape to begin with. It was just a lot of crud and darkness down in the back areas here, so we got it cleaned up, and I don't have any other tools like that in my collection, so again, a nice transformation from here to here, and all the little tools turned out nice. If you'll stay tuned now for a couple of minutes, I'm going to bring out my ice tool collection and show it off. Don't show it that often, and it's kind of fun, so let's get to it. Well, for me, it's nice to get the whole collection out and take a look at it because it's usually put away in a drawer. I'd like to start out by saying I did have, and I showed in previous videos, these three tools. I kept calling them ice tools or ice picks, but they actually weren't, because how could they be? They all had metal plates on the end, and you didn't hammer on these to make them work, although you could use it as an ice pick. But these are actually awls, and got three different color schemes on them now just to make them look a little different. But they look good in the collection, but they're really not part of it. So with those out and with my new additions in, here's what my collection is to date, with a few more in the drawer for a later restoration. I couldn't do them all. But first of all, I've got the multi-tip ones. They come in they're all really sharp. And this one is a solid metal one. And I painted a funky green color. And I tried to give them different colors and different finishes to make them look a little different so they wouldn't all look the same. And this one has 8 prongs. That's quite a large one there. And then one in all steel with a bottle opener on the end. The new one I just did. So this, shows you a variety there. And you get to these, it's just a couple of different items. My ice cube breaker here, and a combination hammer, pick, and bottle opener. In a brass. I don't want to got this brass. And then, a couple of different tips on them here and different wood finishes. The only one I got that's got a name on it, Coca-Cola. And that was a nice combination one too, with the bottle opener and the pick. A little stranger here, all steel. It's a bottle opener, pick, and a hammer. The little hammer ends are to break up the ice. Break it up like you can with this, but you just hit it with the little hammer. And this being my favorite of all time, the Wicked, and one of my followers called it the medieval torture tool, and it looks, or medieval weapon, it looks like it. In fact, I think I said at the time, I need to sleep with this under my pillow, because if somebody's coming in, they're gonna have to answer to this little thing. But I just like it. It's just really different. The only one I've ever seen like that. And I was glad to get it in my collection. And these are some all steel ones. All three of these on the top, they slide. It's a slide hammer type action. You put it on and then you slide this down to break it, rather than stabbing it with the ice pick. And so, since there were 3 of them, all a little bit different, I did one in a polished metal, one in a gun blue, and then the Scott Crafter red we had to get in the collection. And these are nice little advertising ones. I think one goes back to 1901. I'd have to look them up again to look the dates on them. That's just decorative. This one had a date. Should have read them before I started, because with my eyes, I can't read them now, that's for sure. And this one had, yeah, the phone number was what was usual. This phone number was 1400, which meant this was done in the early night, the first 1900s to 1910. And I had another one in here that was a 3-digit number. Maybe that's it. Can't be sure. Yeah, 140, 104, 109. I can't read that. 3-digit number, which was the late 1800s. They used 3-digit phone numbers, and they went to 4 and 5, and I think I explained the whole series at the time. So they got some nice reference to the time. You can determine the time by the phone number that was on there. So that's my collection. I've got some bigger things. I got an ice cube maker that you use hot water to heat, and I showed that in the video, and a lot of different items, but just fun to collect. I don't know. I don't see any other people collecting them online. I don't know if, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but got some unusual items here to try to get a variety of the different ones. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it.